So if you're just joining us, welcome to Global Quilt Connection. We're so happy to see you for webinar number 4. We have a whole new slate of teachers every time. Every single one of these teachers is ready now to present virtually. We are, Global Quilt Connection is specifically for teachers and guilds who are ready to have live virtual lectures and classes. You ready to go, teachers? Thumbs up? All right, let's get ready for our teachers.
The first teacher we'll hear from is Daisy Aschehoug.
My name is Daisy, and my quilts are modern, bold, and geometric. I'm from the United States, and I've lived in Norway since 2017. I'm a designer, a teacher, and a book author. More than 20 of my designs have been published in magazines, and many of those quilts have hung in major shows. 5 of those designs have won awards. Teaching is one of the best parts about what I do. It's an honor to be a part of your quilt journey, and whether I'm sitting next to you in a room or whether I'm looking at your quilt blocks on my computer screen, my goal is to help you develop skills to keep you excited about quilting and making quilts that you love. In my Basic Curves workshop, we start with the traditional quilt block and sketch out a plan to substitute quarter circle squares for the half square triangles. This can also be a pattern-based workshop, and one of my favorite Basic Curves pattern options is the spin-off quilt. It's a fantastic class for people who haven't tried curves before, and most people leave the workshop with a finished quilt top. In the Pebble Pop workshop, I'll coach you through the basics of sewing improvised curves. Using a log cabin style construction, we'll practice improvised curved piecing and create a series of circles with organic variations. In my Giant Nested Curves workshop, we play with improv slabs, or made fabric, and combine them with a variety of curves ranging up to 12 inches. This design is a great way to use up scraps or to feature fabrics that are treasured, like this indigo fabric I dyed earlier this year. My last piecing workshop is all about curves and stripes. I love curves and stripes so much that I wrote a book with my good friend Heather Black of Quiltashusets. If your guild selects this option, you choose from one of my book designs or one of the other 3 curves and stripes patterns I've written. I share all my tips and tricks for keeping your stripes crisp and straight as you piece across the curves. Along with my love of curves, I'm also fascinated with how technology can influence our quilting. I teach workshops on designing quilts in Illustrator and in TouchDraw for the iPad. And I'm just launching a new lecture on laser cutting for everyday quilters. Whether you're a traditional quilter or a modern quilter or an art quilter, a laser cutter can be a useful tool for creating templates, custom English paper piecing papers, and even cutting your own fabric for applique. You don't need your own laser cutter. My lecture will help you figure out your options and show you what you can expect as you move forward. Thanks for checking out the workshops I offer. I'm adding new options regularly to my website, and I have details about fees and class sizes posted there. If you have any questions, I'm available on social media and by email at daisy@warmfolk.com.
Thank you, Daisy. Next up, we have Kathie Beltz.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathie Beltz, and welcome to my studio here in Southern New Hampshire. I am an award-winning quilter who's been quilting for 25 years. I can't believe it's been so long. I've been teaching for 16 years, and I'm also a quilt judge. I've been judging for just about 13 years. Back in 2013, I became a certified instructor for Studio 180 Design, which is Deb Tucker's tool and technique company. And in 2017, I launched my own line of quilt patterns, most of which are companion patterns to the Studio 180 Design tools. And of course, my latest adventure is virtual teaching. So let me show you what I have to offer you and your quilt guild. Right now, I have 3 lectures and 2 classes available online through Zoom. The first lecture is the Studio 180 Design Lecture. There are 22 tools, over 100 patterns, and probably a couple dozen technique sheets. We can't get through all of them in one lecture, but I will highlight my favorites and show you lots of designs and quilts that go along with the tools. Secrets from the Judges Chamber, Have you ever gone to a quilt show and wondered why a quilt won a ribbon or an award? Well, I have those answers for you. I will show you the process of what judges do to evaluate quilts, and we'll talk about the whole judging process. Easy Color for Quilters is my most popular lecture. I'll teach you how to use the color wheel. We'll learn basic color terminology and color relationships, and then I'll take that technology and apply it to quilts so you can see right what I'm talking about exactly, terminology to quilt. My classes are machine piecing classes, and I give you lots of tips and tricks on how to do precision piecing. My first class is quick and easy flying geese. With the fast flying geese technique, we make 4 flying geese at a time. Make them slightly oversized and then trim them down and make them perfect with the wing clipper. Then I'll show you how to use the flying geese to make different designs, just like in this quilt pictured here. Rick Rack is one of my newer patterns. It's based on the shaded 4 patch block. We make 2 colorways of the shaded 4 patch block, slightly oversized, and again, trim them down with the Tucker trimmer and make them perfect. If you have any questions about classes, judging, lectures, demos, check out my website at kathiebeltz.com. You could also follow me on Facebook or Instagram, and you can always email me at kathy@kathiebeltz.com. Thanks for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to meeting you and your quilting friends.
Thank you, Kathie. Now we'll hear from Patricia Belyea.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patricia Belyea from Washington State in the U.S. I lead a small family business, Okon Arts, with my daughter Victoria. We're both quilters and designers. This summer, I've been sheltering in place in the Okanagan Highlands and had the adventure of being a first-time indigo grower. Victoria and I import vintage Japanese textiles, and most spectacularly, the hand-dyed yukata cottons. In Seattle, we have an online shop that Victoria manages, and I've written a quilt book about improv quilting with Japanese fabrics. My quilts are filled with curves and yukata cottons. Some of them are compositions with complex curves, and other ones with inserted curves, where I make a background grid and then I slash into it and add graphic elements that are curved. My most popular Zoom talk for guilds is the alluring world of Japanese yukata quilts. And in this Zoom talk, I'll take your group on a virtual tour of the 2020 Tokyo Quilt Festival. We'll look at the exhibits and all the special features. Then we'll head north of Tokyo, and on our way we'll discuss yukata cottons and their impact in Japanese culture. Our destination? We're heading to a choose and dyeing workshop where artisans hand dye yukata cotton. And we'll finish up with a trunk show of my yukata cotton quilts. My presentation is 1 hour long. I speak for 3/4 of an hour, and then we have a 15-minute question and answer chat. My fee for the talk is $350, and you can find me at okonarts.com. Email patricia@okonarts.com. Although I'm living in a remote place, I've rented an office in a nearby town as my Zoom room so that I have high-speed internet to connect with you and Zoom. I'm the perfect presenter for a monthly meeting where you're not looking for a workshop, because all I'm offering is a talk. I look forward to hearing from you, whether your guild is in North America, the UK, New Zealand, Australia, you get the picture, wherever there are quilters and the English language is spoken. Who needs to sleep when we can all talk about creativity, quilts, and Japan?
Thank you, Patricia. Sarah Bond is up next.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bond and I live in Philadelphia. My inspiration is classic quilts and classic quilt forms. When I teach, I break down the quilt into manageable elements so that students can master them and then put them together to make the quilts that they want to make. I want to have a stress-free and enjoyable class, and I want students to leave my class feeling that they've mastered something that they didn't think that they could do. I currently teach about a dozen classes, and those classes roughly break down into 3 categories. Old favorites. New York Beauty, Lone Star, and Pickle Dish are great old favorites, each with its own challenges. In each class, we will cover the basics, as well as options for customizing your quilt to your tastes. All the elements are sized to fit together easily, and I'll offer tips for making construction easier so that you finish with a quilt top that is neat and will lay flat. Traditional quilts reframed. Release the Geese takes the classic flying geese in a circle and then combines with straight geese to create a unique path. Coming Full Circle covers 3 circle options and 2 setting options, both squares and hexagons. Infinity Fan takes the traditional grandmother's fan in new directions. And Lone Star variations include a lateral Lone Star, inverted star, diamond stair step, and diamond chain link. Something a little different. Woven Star is a fun pattern in 3 block sizes and features curves, quick piecing, and paper piecing. Tiger Melon Tiger Moon is a simple paper piecing pattern in 2 unique shapes. Strips and Stripes leverages striped and printed fabric to enhance the 18-inch blocks. This is a fun and quick quilt. Scrappy String Diamonds is a great way to use up your scraps and play with color and pattern. Ribbon Quilts is a class in color play and composition, mostly in solids. Sharpen your color sense with simple sewing. And Color and Grayscale is a study in color, value, and repetition. Simple 6-inch blocks can be made into a quilt. Modern Quilts from My Grandmother's is a lecture about the long tradition of quilting in my family. I'll talk about 4 strong women quilters and how they've left their mark on me and my quilts. Putting your best self into your quilt making is part trunk show and part explanation of the practices and experiences that have transformed me from a casual crafter to a practicing quilt maker. Thanks for listening and watching today. I can be reached by email at sarahbond220@comcast.net. And you can see my work on Facebook or on Instagram and coming soon on my website. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sarah. Christina Cameli is up next.
Hi, I'm Christina Cameli. I'm a quilting instructor and a fabric and pattern designer. I'm a part of the Portland Modern Quilt Guild here in Portland, Oregon, and I love spreading quilting joy through absolutely any medium. I try to make quilting fun and not fussy, and really help creative people tune into their intuition and get some creative momentum going. Maybe we've already met through my books on free motion quilting and wedge piecing, or maybe you've seen me in one of my 6 classes on Craftsy and Blueprint where I teach domestic machine quilting and scrappy piecing. I started giving live online classes and lectures in April, and I'm really enjoying being able to connect with quilters near and far in this way. Here's some of my popular lectures that I give. I've even developed a new lecture that wasn't possible prior to this online quilting world. I start with a brief lecture on the things that I consider when I'm figuring out how to quilt a quilt top. And then I take photos of guild members' quilt tops that need to be quilted. And we talk about what possibilities there are for the quilt, and I draw some suggestions right on top of the photo of their quilt electronically. It's really cool. As far as classes go, I think that is the sweet spot these days. It's kind of amazing that you can be comfortable in your own space, but also in the studio of another quilter across the country or across the world at the same time. Here's some of my classes that have been popular. I get a lot of good feedback from my classes. Online, you can find me at ChristinaCameli.com. On Instagram, I'm A Few Scraps, and also on Facebook, A Few Scraps. Send me an email if you'd like to set up a program for your guild. I'd love to hear from you. Happy stitching!
Thank you, Christina. Now we'll hear from Trudy Cleveland.
Hi, I'm Trudy Cleveland from Southern California. I have two passions, quilting and photography, which has led me to specializing in photography of quilts. I've been able to pull together my experiences in photography of quilts and presenting a lecture for your guild, and it's called Shoot Your Quilt. This program will include why you should take pictures of your quilts, how to use your smartphone to take pictures of your quilts that will look professional, and what to do with the images after you collect them. I will include images of my quilts along with directions on how to achieve professional looking results. The results will make your quilting pop in the photograph that you take. With just a few tips, and all of your members will start photographing their quilts with professional looking results. I will show examples of all the features that you can use in your smartphone. We can take full feature images of your quilts. We can also take close-ups, and also we can use the portrait mode to get images that look like they came right out of a magazine. I have another workshop that I offer, and it's called Upgrade Your Quilt Toolbox. This popular lecture is how to use your modern technology to enhance your quilting journey. In this lecture, I cover all of the hidden features in your smartphone, your printers, your applications on your smartphone, and even in Zoom meetings, what you can do in order to enhance images that you present on, say, to your guild. We also have things at the hardware store and household items that we can use to enhance our quilting experience. We can even show you how to use a laser to perfect your 1/4 inch. I offer workshops. One of the workshops I offer is taking professional photographs of your quilts, in which you get to choose one of your quilts. And during the workshop, we make a portfolio of that one quilt, including a full-length picture of your quilt, close-ups, the label, the back of the quilt, and also a vignette of your quilt. I also have how to edit your photographs, and also I have a workshop on piecing with a laser. I can customize your workshops. They can be a mini 3-hour workshop, or we can do 2 3-hour workshops separated by a couple of days. And we could also do an all-day workshop. My name is Trudy Cleveland. My website is trudycleveland.com.
Thanks, Trudy. Now we'll hear from Jaimie Davis.
Hi, I'm Jaimie from Loopy Tulip Designs, and I'd like to introduce you to the classes and lectures I offer. The History and Mystery of Baltimore Album Quilts is a fascinating journey into an America headed for the Civil War. Through stories, I will explore how the history of Baltimore Album Quilts leads us into the hearts and minds of the women who made them, and find out how a pregnancy, a Christmas gift, and a quilt class gone horribly wrong helps to explain the mystery behind why these quilts disappeared almost overnight. It's a fun, provocative, and insightful look into some of America's most beautiful treasures. In my newest lecture, How to Build a Landscape Quilt from the Ground Up, I will show you how to create a one-of-a-kind landscape quilt even and especially if you've never thought of yourself as an artist. Follow along as I use Google Images, a copier, and a lightbox to build a pattern. Throughout the lecture, you will enjoy lighthearted stories of my less than successful landscape projects and be inspired by the principles for success I discovered along the way. I also offer a variety of workshops. In my Layered Landscapes workshop, students will learn how to create a stunning landscape quilt in this 1-day or 2-day class. I will touch on the principles of successful design in addition to teaching several machine-based construction techniques necessary to complete this project. Baltimore Blooms is a great introduction to the art of Baltimore album quilt making. Students will learn the basics of hand applique, the dimensional floral technique of ruching, and hand embroidery. This class is ideal for beginners but can be easily adapted for a more advanced student. In Illuminated Letters with Tsukiniko inks, we will learn to paint beautiful illuminated letters during this creative hands-on class. Using Tsukiniko inks, students will explore painting techniques that will add stunning detail and sparkle to their projects. In addition, I will share a stress-free method for creating harmonious and balanced color palettes. No prior painting experience is required. Loopy Tulips, Dizzy Daisies, and Purple Poppies have been my mainstay workshops for teaching traditional hand applique for years. In these workshops, I focus on the why behind the how of hand applique, sending students off with the deep understanding necessary to successfully create not only the class project, but also the applique projects of their dreams. In addition, I provide students with some quirky tips and tricks to allow them to applique beautifully right from the start. Loopy Tulips is perfect for the student who has never appliqued before. Dizzy Daisies is designed for a beginner but also introduces some intermediate techniques, and Purple Poppies is for the intermediate to advanced student who wants to hone his or her skills. And finally, hand quilting. Have you always wanted to create beautiful heirloom quality stitches by hand? This class provides everything necessary to become a confident hand quilter. It is a great class for the beginner and the experienced alike. Thank you so much for your time today. If you'd like to book me for your event, please go to loopytulips.com/bookjaimie. And if you have any questions, submit them on the contact me form. I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you, Jaimie. Now we'll hear from Rachel Derstine.
Hello, I'm Rachel Derstine, and I am an art quilter from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. After a long career teaching music, in around 2010, I began seriously creating art quilts and submitting them to quilt shows and winning awards. My husband and I then spent quite a few years traveling across the country in the summers, selling my quilts at fine art and craft shows. I had many people coming into my booth to purchase the quilts, but also I had so many people coming in and asking me questions about how I constructed my quilts, how I decided to design my quilts. I then decided to create my own online quilting and sewing courses, which you can find at artfulquiltingandsewing.com. I've been published in several magazines, and I also have installations at several corporations. I have a Facebook group called Artful Quilting and Sewing Group, which is open to anyone. Look for the orange quilt in the background. And I have a YouTube channel, Rachel Derstine, where you can find many free videos. My main website where I sell my quilts and list all my lectures and workshops is rachelderstinedesigns.com. I happen to have grown up in Japan, and this greatly influences my artwork. So you are going to see some styles that look Asian to you. I don't always notice it myself, but I've been told that it does have that quality to it. My favorite lecture is one where I talk about how I draw on my life experiences, how I collect images that are very prominent in my mind, and in great detail how I go about constructing some of my quilts. Another lecture that I offer is Artful Couching, where I talk about how stitching yarn to the surface of your quilt will add texture and definition to your designs. I enjoy teaching easy landscape quilting. These are great for beginner students as well as intermediate students. I also like to introduce other art mediums. So I have a course called Trees, Fusing Paints and Markers. You can see more of my class offerings on my website at rachelderstinedesigns.com. And I would love for you to contact me and discuss with me coming to visit your guild through Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Next up is Grace Errea.
My name is Grace Errea. I'm a textile artist, teacher, lecturer, and author. I design patterns partnering with Hoffman of California. I have authored books with CNT, and I also have my own published books on CD with many novel and interesting techniques. Many know me from previous real life. Let's go virtual. I design using value. I execute that design using value to choose my textiles and my heat set collage technique to complete the vision. My lectures are value. Well, it's all about value. And also through the years, my journey from start to where I am to now. My classes will show you how to use value in looking at the photo to create the pattern, how to use value to create great designs that work, how to use value in choosing fabrics, and how to use the heat set to pull it all together in an amazing textile art. Virtual classes are 3 hours or 6 hours across 2 days. I also offer optional virtual sessions after class or at any time to answer questions, go over some information, or whatever is needed. One of my virtual classes is From Photo to Pattern. Since I create many patterns from inspirational photos or drawings, therefore, I can show you how to do that in class in easy steps, very easy steps. The other virtual class is Heat Set, which is all about execution. I developed this amazing technique I call Heat Set Collage with templates. Easy to learn, easy to use, never fail, and results in clean lines that will never fray. What can I offer you? Virtual and in-person classes and lectures. More upcoming virtual classes will be posted on my website soon. Books with value information published by CNT. Books on CD with many interesting and novel and amazing techniques. A number of value tools, and many, many patterns. My name is Grace Errea. Amazing Quilts by Grace.
Thank you, Grace. Sarah Goer is up next.
Hi, I'm Sarah Goer, a former middle school math teacher turned quilt teacher, and I'm excited to share with you my planned improv technique-based workshops. My first workshop is Scrappy Squares. You'll use a pile of your favorite scraps, we'll cut them into squares, and you will design on your design wall. Then I'll show you how to put it all together into your own composition. In All About Angles, without any special rulers, tools, or tricky measurement, you'll use the same angle as a repeated design element throughout your work. This workshop favors two-sided fabrics, solids, hand dyes, cross weaves, or batiks. In creating a scrappy slab, you'll start with your pile of scraps in whatever palette you choose. Could be monochromatic, a limited palette, all of your florals, or just everything combined. I'll give you all the tips and tricks for sewing that fabric together to make your own fabric. It could be used alone, like you see on the right in the purple slab, or we'll discuss ways to implement using the scrappy slab in patterns, blocks, and modern designs of your choosing. The final workshop that I'm offering today is Improv Log Cabins. The traditional log cabin block is one that all quilters are familiar with, but there are infinite ways to change it up with different fabric selections, design elements, or placement of the logs. We'll talk about different ways to make your own improv log cabin block. You could choose to work in a large-scale format or in a smaller block format, in which we'll discuss how to build onto that block to create a larger project. In fact, all of my workshops conclude with a discussion about how to iterate on a design to build onto what you've created in class and ideas for how to quilt it. My virtual workshops are a combination of live time on Zoom with me, as well as online access to workshop videos, photos, and more detailed description. My workshops are full of tips and tricks for everything that I do for basic piecing and design elements. My favorite part of teaching is seeing how students take the initial rules that we're working from for the day and make the project their own. I really encourage creativity and enjoy seeing what everybody comes up with and how everyone's projects look unique. My favorite lecture is Rules and Options of Planned Improv Piecing. It pairs well with any of my workshops. I talk about my process for setting rules and guidelines for myself to drive my design work, how I choose to follow or break my own rules, and how I iterate on a design. I often have an idea in mind, but not a plan for a finished project, and I share a wide variety of projects and talk about the details of how the project has evolved as I've worked on it. You can read more about my workshops and lectures at sarahgoerquilts.com, and you can reach me at sarahgoerquilts@gmail.com. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Now we'll hear from Betsy Habich.
Hi, this is Betsy Habich, and I'm coming to you from my studio in Beverly, Massachusetts. I'm primarily an art quilter. My work has appeared at both Houston and Paducah and been awarded at the Machine Quilters Expo, the Vermont Quilt Festival, and elsewhere. My current focus is pieced picture quilts and intense thread painting. I offer through thread painting workshops. Thread Painting 101 shows how to balance your machine's tension, do free motion straight stitch and zigzag thread painting blend color, and then use those skills to make a beautiful autumn leaf. Thread Paint Your Own Photo. Students send me their own photo to review before class. As each student works on her own piece, the whole class benefits by listening to the discussion. In designing your own picture-pieced quilt pattern, you learn how to transform your own photo into straight or curved line pattern for piecing. In piecing a picture quilt, you can use either that pattern or one of mine, and learn how to look at fabric differently and pin and sew very accurately. Star Rise in the Global Village, new this fall, teaches working with world fabrics, making traditional blocks and putting them together with improv. I offer 3 lectures. Thread painting, it's all about the details, takes you through the creation of a thread painting from beginning to end. Piecing a Picture of Nature focuses on my pieced picture quilts and takes you through the making of the daylily quilt. The Joy of Fabric and Thread takes my work from its beginnings to early pieced picture quilts, applique pictures, and thread paintings, with a few diversions along the way. I love to teach. I have so missed not being in the classroom with all of you. My goal for my online workshops and talks is to make them as much fun and as packed with learning as they are in person. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you to Sue and Lyric, and thank you to all of you for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Betsy. Next up is Pam Hadfield.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pam Hadfield. I live in Southern California, Laguna Niguel, and I would like to share my work with you. I've been very fortunate over the years to have received multiple awards for my quilts in Rota, California, Nashville, Tennessee, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Paducah, Kentucky. And because of that, I've been able to have some of my work published in these magazines. I will do a virtual trunk show for your guild. I have a variety of quilts to be shown. I have pieced quilts, applique quilts, I have wool applique quilts, and a collection of challenges. I also have seasonal quilts, mostly Halloween, and I share things that I've learned over the years because there's lessons to be learned from practically every quilt. My workshops consist of Charmed by Squares. This is a beginning to intermediate piecing with beginning applique, and then we'll learn how to put the binding on with the flange. This is my own pattern. It's called Red, White, and Bloom. There's 2 patterns in one. So this is the original. I had this border on it, and this was hand applique. And then I decided to take that border off, extend the lines out, and do a raw-edge applique. This is the one that we do in the workshop. And then we also learn how to put a facing on instead of a binding for this type of a quilt. This is Whimsy Wedges. It's a fun workshop with a different approach to making a Dresden pattern. This comes from a Quilt Mania magazine pattern, and I've been giving permission to teach. It also gives the maker an opportunity to be very creative with her fabric choices, so every Dresden in the class will be different. So it can be made into a pillow, into a table runner, or you can make it into a quilt. Pyramids in Living Color. This is a fun piece pattern that's great for learning color values. By using your dark, mediums, and lights, it becomes a very dimensional quilt. Inch by inch, these are 1.5 inch cut squares that are laid on a fusible foundation and sewn together without a pin. So it really is a miracle because all of those corners match perfectly. This is a Carmen Geddes technique using her fusible foundation. It's all around the neighborhood. This is a Halloween pillow and it's made using the wedge ruler. You can be very creative here. You don't have to use Halloween fabrics. Any fabrics work, and they all turn out adorable. I have a new workshop. This is called Crazy Christmas Trees, and it's a stack and wax style. For the workshop, we will make a table runner, and then that gives you all the skills that you need if you want to turn it into a large quilt. Again, my name is Pam Hadfield. You can reach me at mamapquilts.com, 949-285-5389.
Thank you, Pam. Jenny Haynes is up next.
Hi everybody, I'm Jenny and I'm a Swedish exile and a modern quilter, and I've spent the last 20 years in the UK. I've taught at the V&A in London and to guilds as far away as Australia. Now I love Zoom teaching. Unfortunately for me, being in Europe means that the time zones work really well as well, all over the world. So since March, I've been teaching individuals and guilds online in Australia, New Zealand, India, Canada, America, and all over Europe without having to once get out of bed in the middle of the night to teach. I've nurtured a passion, or should we say obsession, for the Drunkard's Path block for a long while now. And the purpose with my teaching is to pass on the excitement of piecing this beautiful block, but without the fuss and the fear. I teach with the help of my templates and crucially no pins. The templates will allow you to create precision in your work, but without having to be overly precise with your curve piecing. And just so you know, all my classes include the paper version of these templates and a discount code for the Perspex templates. That's acrylic. I teach a straightforward no pin curves workshop, and this technique is the basis of all of my workshops, even the ones based on more advanced designs like the twice cut Drunkard's Path or the floating stairs or skinny insert strip classes. And even though my classes are based on my designs, the workshops are all about technique. So I will use curves together with foundation paper piecing using freezer paper to make the thistles in my cogs class, or with Y-seams and foundation paper piecing in my floating stairs quilt. And I will teach you how to cut and cut again to create a perspective of holes and dowels in my twice cut Drunkard's Path class. My goal is that you will walk away with a bunch of fresh skills, tons of ideas how you can incorporate these newly gained skills in your own work, and a confidence and a conviction that you can now tackle any curve. After I demo the techniques, I will stay with you on Zoom whilst you sew for an informal chat and problem solving session. You can see a list of all my current workshops on my website under teaching, where you can also find prices and ideas of timings for the different time zones. All my lectures and workshops are live, and they incorporate good sound and clear close-up of all the processes and details. The lectures and the demo part of the classes are recorded, so you can rewatch that for up to 8 weeks after the event. If you have any questions or you want to talk about how we can work together, I'd love to hear from you. So please get in touch either via email or on social media.
Thank you, Jenny. Eleanor Levie is up next.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Levie, as in drove my Chevy to the levee, but please call me Ellie. I've authored and edited dozens of quilting books featuring projects from a host of quilters you know and love, along with my own designs. Let me tell you about 2 presentations and 1 3-hour workshop you can book right now. First up, my Magical History Tour. Hop aboard my tour bus and I'll take you on a journey through 3 pivotal decades based on my book, American Quilt Making, 1970 to 2000. I'll tell you the incredible stories behind the Hudson River quilt, the sunsets on Sunbonnet Sioux, Corona 2, solar eclipse, and a whole lot more. For those of you who've been quilting for a while, this will be a sweet trip down memory lane. And for those new to quilting, you'll find out we've come a long way, baby. Second program. Guilds love my online trunk show, 12 Ways to Rock Your Quilting. These are techniques with broad appeal for new quilters, traditional quilters, and art quilters. Let's rock and roll through a few of them. Number 1 of the 12 ways to rock your quilting is take a motif and stretch it. Number 2 is take a classic block and skew it. Number 8 is mimic a masterpiece. You'll get lots of new ideas to inspire originality. Okay, let's rock on. Weave a Quilt with Me is my most popular workshop. I'll show you how to use fabric strips and ribbons to make a gorgeous weaving, customized for your home. With how-to videos for each step and demo tips and tricks like speed weaving, most people will finish a small weaving during this workshop. Afterwards, you'll know just how to quilt and finish it for a pillow, a table runner, or an art quilt. We share everyone's unique creation, gab while we work on our own, and laugh out loud. No one needs to take notes. I send everyone how-tos you can keep forever. And no one says, "Oh, I wish I'd brought that other fabric from home." You are home. Now I make my home in Center City, Philadelphia. Someday I'd love to be able to come visit your guild in person again. In the meantime, visit me at eleanorlevie.com. Stay safe, stay well.
Thank you, Eleanor. Now we'll hear from Cindy Lohbeck.
Hi, everybody. Cindy Lohbeck here, coming to you from beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. I have been fortunate enough to teach my fearless fabric dyeing techniques around the United States for the last 12 years with my company, Hands-On Hand Dyes. I've taught for such esteemed promoters as Quilts Inc. in Houston and the American Quilt Society, as well as many other high-quality promoters, quilt shops, and quilt guilds around the country. I've also been the featured artist in Quilting Arts magazine. I've gotten to film 3 episodes of Quilting Arts TV, and I have my own iQuilt video where I share tips and tricks with you from AQS. When the world came to a screeching halt a few months back, I needed to make a shift. I had 50 classes cancel on me very quickly. I started teaching on Zoom within 6 weeks. The next shift happened when my husband started teaching at home. I had been doing my little business out of my dining room for 12 years. It was time to move into a studio in Old Town, Scottsdale, Arizona. Hands-On Hand Dyes shifted into Die Hard Studio, a place where I can set up lights and bring you a good quality production. We'll start with pre-class support, how to set up safely at home, and end up with post-class support, rinsing and washing, and also how to use your fabrics. With classes like freezing your backsides, magical ice-dyed mandalas, rad ombres, and pole dancing, arashi shibori, my classes deliver humor, fun, and most of all, results. That's a usable stash. If you're not quite sure if you're ready for a class, I have a visual storytelling of my life in fabric dyeing starting in 8th grade. It's fun, humorous, and usually leads to a workshop down the line. However we connect, I hope we do soon. I'd love to share my fabric dyeing techniques with you on Zoom.
Thank you, Cindy. Now we'll hear from Julie Luoma.
Hello, welcome to my studio in Central Florida. My name is Julie Luoma. My husband and I own Off the Wall Quilt. We're manufacturers of acrylic rulers and templates, Cheryl Ann's freestanding portable walls, and ruler magic. Up until last March, we traveled around the country visiting quilt shows, teaching and lecturing at guilds, and stopping in quilt shops. We met lots of wonderful people along the way, and we're excited about this new way of meeting even more. I have been quilting for about 10 years and fell into it quite accidentally, starting first as a designer, but that's a story I save for my lectures. I have a sort of eclectic style, not limiting myself to only one way of doing things. I believe that done is more important than perfect. My lecture, Dancing on the Border, is loads of fun and features stunning borders that are deceptively easy to make. I wrote a book to go along with it called Dancing on the Border, and I have had many quilters come to me and tell me how successful they've been at creating amazing borders after browsing through my book. I show quilts at my lectures, and I provide a downloadable handout, and I'm happy to answer questions. I can also provide a class called Build a Border, which is silly fun, and we never know what we'll end up with until the class is over. It's a very relaxed and appropriate setting for all quilters. I also teach angle play, a template method of piecing, which is how I made the quilt behind me. Again, this is appropriate and fun for all levels and skills. And finally, we offer a pop-up shop just for your guild members. I show them my 10 favorite tools, and they can order those or other items from our website, and we offer free shipping for 24 hours after the event. We are able to answer questions, take orders privately in Zoom, or even talk to people by phone. It's like shopping with your best friends again. Please reach out to me with any questions. I'd love to get you on my calendar.
Thank you, Julie. Now we'll hear from RaNae Merrill.
Hi, everyone. I'm RaNae Merrill, coming to you live from my studio in New York City. Today, I'd like to tell you about 3 types of classes that I offer: my spiral quilts classes, free motion mastery in a month, and our online presentation training. You may know me from my books, Simply Amazing Spiral Quilts and Magnificent Spiral Mandala Quilts. What my students love about these quilts is that even though they're all curves, everything is done with straight lines, and I have some fantastic methods for paper piecing. I developed free motion mastery in a month about 3 or 4 years ago based on my own struggles to learning free motion quilting and my experience in the past as a concert pianist, where I realized that everything I knew about teaching someone to play the piano applied to free motion quilting. What's really unique about this is that I actually teach you how to quilt before you get to the sewing machine. So rather than just teaching patterns, I start with body mechanics with an exercise I called quilting yoga. Then we go to a tracing exercise that mimics how you move with the sewing machine. Then you draw, and finally you quilt a block a day. We do have a teacher certification program, and I wholesale these products to stores and my books and tools to stores, so you can find more about that at wholesale.freemotionmasteryinamonth.com. So as I said earlier, I started teaching almost immediately, March 21st, and immediately started helping other teachers to teach online as well. We created live online quilt class and discovered that we needed to help guilds and stores and teachers get comfortable with teaching online, and so I created the online presentation training. What's really interesting about this is that it's kind of a 3-sided approach. We teach the presentation from the part of the presenter, a moderator, and an attendee. And in our training, you'll learn things like how to do a camera sound setup with devices you already have, how to prepare for an online presentation, how to look your best on camera, how to work with a moderator, how to interact with students live in a workshop, when to use screen share, how to keep your meetings secure, how to do elections in a meeting, how to manage recordings, and a lot more. You can learn more about this on liveonlinequiltclass.com, which is the platform where I now share my classes and other teachers' classes as well. But just to sum it all up, and if you go to our Live Online Quilt class, we do have a free Zoom Tools handout that you can download and you can share it with anyone. We want to, my team and I, we really want to help the guilds stay together and stay strong. So we really want to help them, you all use Zoom to make that transition. So to sum it all up, 3 types of classes: spiral quilts, free motion mastery in a month, and online presentation training. You can email me at RaNae@RaNaeMerrillQuilts.com or contact me through any of the websites you see here. Thank you, Lyric, for doing this for all of us, and I look forward to seeing all of you in another session or in an online class sometime soon. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandra Mollon, and I'm coming to you today from my studio in Valley Springs, California. I'm a long-time quilter. I spent a couple of decades doing very traditional applique work, mostly in the Baltimore album style of quilting, and I have a quilt in that style, I'm really honored to say, in the National Quilt Museum in Paducah, Kentucky. And I switched gears. I also do a lot of very realistic fused art quilts. You might have seen some of those out and about as well, including the big boy behind me, my elephant in the room. I hand dye, I bead, I thread paint. I love textiles, and I'm excited to share that with you. Let's take a quick look at the lectures and workshops I'm offering this year.
Starting with lectures, of course, I have a trunk show, and I think that will work just as well in Zoom as it would in person. People really love to see the work that people have done and get an idea of the style of work, but also they love being able to ask questions and get answers for things that they might then apply to their own work. If you want a very specific topic, though, you might want to consider the lecture Adapting an Image for an Art Quilt. What's cool about that is that I talk about how I select photos, how I modify photos, the types of fabric I use, and the type of media I use to get my very realistic style that you can see in some of those photos there. My next lecture, of course, is called The Use of Textured Fabrics and Embellishments in Quilts. While the images here are all from my Seasons of Life quilt, it's not limited to that. I go into art quilts and all of the ways that media and fabric can be manipulated and embellished to get the really amazing texture that we love so much as quilters. In my virtual workshops, the way that we have these set up is that all of my groups or guilds will get two 1-hour Zoom meetings. That's cool. One at the beginning and then the next one spaced at the discretion of the person booking the workshop. So students get a lifelong or permanent video lesson that is hosted on a private YouTube channel. They get to watch those videos as many times as they need, and students really respond well to having that information available to them, and they like to be able to go and watch those as many times as they need. And as somebody with a teaching background, it's important for me to get the detailed information across to them, and they have responded very well, and I've had really successful workshops. Interested in my work, please visit SandraMollonQuilts.com for more information. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. Next, we will hear from Ashli Montgomery.
In 3 words or less, I would say I'm preserving memories. I'm quilting to mend the mind by spearheading a community of friends who love quilts and quilting but hate Alzheimer's disease. I'm Ashli Montgomery, a coach's wife, a mama, a speaker, designer, and author, sharing quilts, Alzheimer's education, yoga, books, and all my favorite things. I'm honored to be part of the Global Quilt Connection, and I'm excited to share these programs. Alzheimer's disease has hit our family in a big way. My grandmother passed away from it, my husband's grandmother passed away from it, and recently we lost my mother-in-law. It's a disease that unfortunately is touching our society more and more. I decided to use my quilting hobby as a platform to educate and advocate for an end to Alzheimer's disease. Maya Angelou said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." I believe our quilts tell a story, and I have created a signature style of quilting where I combine our traditional quilt blocks with t-shirts, and I create quilts that tell fun, fabulous memories. Have you ever been sewing on a quilt and lost all track of time? And when you got up from your chair, your fingers were cramping, your shoulders were frozen, and your back wouldn't even bend? Well, quilting is not my only passion. I'm also a certified yoga instructor. And in this lecture and workshop, I'm going to teach you all about being a fit quilter. Before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about technology. I think it's really important that we have the electronics that make our virtual learning as beneficial and enjoyable as possible. For all of my Zoom presentations, I use an advanced software that allows for picture-in-picture as well as multiple camera angles. I will show shots from above so that you can see exactly what I'm doing on the machine and on the cutting table, and I've got great lighting and sound. That way you can see and hear everything that we're doing. As you can tell, these 3 lectures and workshops are very different from what you might be used to, but I promise we're going to have a ton of fun. Thank you for being here today. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Ashli. Carol Morrissey is next.
Hello, quilters. My name is Carol Morrissey. I'm speaking to you from my little backyard studio near Dallas, Texas. I've been a pattern designer since 2004, and I've been providing programs and workshops to gills since that time. My work has been published and exhibited internationally, and maybe you've seen me on The Quilt Show with Ricky Timms and Alex Anderson. You can see me on episode 1908, and beginning on November 1st of 2020, you can see my brand new episode, which is number 2710. I have 4 different programs to offer your guild. I have Confessions of an Absent-Minded Quilter. I have Dyes and Paints and Inks, oh my. I have Practical Color Theory for Quilters. And I have Art and Nature, a Colorful Collaboration. I also have several workshops to offer. My most popular workshop for quite a while has been my fabric postcards. I have 3 patterns from which to choose. Each pattern contains a collection of postcards in it. Here's a little sampling. I think that the reason this workshop is so popular is, number one, because it's almost instant gratification. But they're just so cute and fun. They make great gifts, and because they are a standard size, they are very easily framed. And if you give me enough advance notice, I'd even be happy to design a couple of originals just for your guild. I also offer a free motion thread painting workshop that has been popular. I've had my photograph printed professionally on fabric, and I provide that to the participants, and then I teach several different stitching methods to emphasize color and texture within the image. I also teach techniques with fabric ink, such as this bee. I also teach a 2-day workshop called The Big Picture, in which I show people how to create their own original fused applique work of art from their own drawing or photograph. I look forward to hearing from you. I'd love to visit you either via Zoom, as I've been doing for several months, or maybe someday in person. My website is ocaroldesigns.com. My email is ocarolm@gmail.com. Thanks so much, and happy quilting.
Thank you, Carol. Now we'll hear from Tracy Reeb.
Hi, I'm Tracy Reeb of Oak Tree Quilts. Thanks for listening today, and a big thanks to Lyric and Sue for putting Global Quilting Connections together. It sure is a great resource. I had a wonderful grandma that taught me how to quilt, knit, and crochet and do embroidery. So I've been doing these things since I was a little girl. I've been teaching quilting since the early 2000s. I create my own patterns and I'm available for virtual presentations and teaching quilting and embroidery classes. My favorite class and most requested is Another Way to Wear Your T-shirt class. You will learn to make a soft and cuddly quilt. It's made with just the t-shirts, no iron-on interfacing or cotton sashing. Yep, you can sew t-shirts without stabilizing them, and I'll show you how. I love combining quilting and embroidery together with crazy quilting. I have a beginner and a more in-depth class. Flower pounding is a fun technique and can be a great stress reliever if you need that. It can be done any time of the year thanks to local flower shops. Once your flowers are pounded on the fabric, you can use your sewing machine to embellish and finish the piece, or you can hand stitch it. It works both ways with beautiful results. Another Couple with Your Tea Bake class combines quilting and embroidery. You'll learn how to stabilize a tea bake for free motion sewing and or hand embroidery, and then quilt a background and attach them. It's a fun technique and perfect for gift giving. Some of my presentations include preserving your memories on fabric, showing you the different techniques to preserve those special memories and the different things that you can create. Color Fabric Magic presentation will show you the many different ways of putting color on your fabric, and one of them will be perfect for your next project. Aschehoug with hands-on demo covers the history of Aschehoug, the tools, and how to do the stitch. Everyone in your guild will get to make a coaster from a kit or supplies from their stash. Each of my classes are priced per person, so it's affordable no matter the size of your guild. Class fees include the pattern and any handouts. Each month, I host either one of my classes or a fun class like sweater mittens, and anybody can join. Any of my patterns can be used to create a class, and if you want to learn something new, grab your friends and contact me and we'll get you on the calendar. Most classes are 2 3-hour classes with time in between to work on the project. I'm available to each student via email and one-on-one meetings if necessary. If your guild is new to the virtual world, I can help. I have my own Zoom account allowing me to host your guild meeting and a class. My goal is to help make your guild successful and allow you to meet and keep your members connected. Here's my contact information, Tracy Reeb at oaktreequilts.com. I look forward to working with you and your guild.
Thank you, Tracy. Next, we'll hear from Maria Rogers Naito.
Hi, my name is Maria Rogers Naito. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. I'm originally from England, but I've lived over 25 years in Japan. My husband is Japanese and my children grew up there. I'm currently living in Maryland, and the local quilt guilds here asked if I could give a talk about my life in Japan and the amazing quilt shows, especially the Tokyo International one held each January. Through those, I developed this presentation, which I'll share with you today. So at the start, I talk about how I ended up in Japan and my life in Japan, and I'll go on to how the Japanese government actively encourage cultural and traditions. And one of those is quilt, and how the quilting industry, especially since the 70s, has evolved in Japan. And the education system of how people study quilting in Japan, it's very different than what we are used to here in America or in other countries. So from the comfort of your own home, you can relax with a glass of wine or a cup of tea while I show you the amazing quilts. I'll talk about the different fabrics that are used, and I'll explain each of these in more detail and point them out as we go through my presentation. I'll talk about why bags and smaller items are so popular in Japan. And from my photos and slideshow, you'll be able to get amazing close-up and details. For example, each egg yolk and sprinkle on the cookie, you'll be able to see clearly. I'll explain what is wa, and also having lived in Japan for such a long time, I think I can point out lots of things in quilts that maybe you might not notice, might be household items or cultural references for longevity, good health, things like that. So I hope I can make my talk interesting as we look through the quilts. There's an amazing antique flea market near Ibaraki, where I live, and I'll show you some photos from there and the treasures I've purchased over the years. So that's me, Maria Rogers Naito. You can contact me by email or give me a call, or I have a Facebook page, Maria's Crafts and Cook. If you ever come to Japan, please remember me and give me a call. And I'd love to meet up with you coming January for the quilt show, and maybe we can go to the fabric district in Tokyo, take an indigo dyeing class, and just hang out. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing from your guild. Thank you. Goodbye. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, Maria. Sue Sherman is up next.
Hi, I'm Sue Sherman from Ontario, Canada. I'm starting this talk with a couple of quilt photographs so you can get a sense of what my work looks like. This first one is a dye-painted whole cloth quilt, and it won first place in the portrait category at Quilt Canada last year. This quilt features miniaturized needle turn applique and teeny-weeny hand quilting stitches. It won ribbons at Quilt Canada in 2018 and at Houston last year. Now, I don't normally talk about my previous job, but this is not a normal year. During my long career as an engineer, our company had offices all over the world, and we had a policy of video conferencing to avoid excessive air travel, including when I spent a couple of years in Hawaii managing a team that included folks on the east and west coasts of the mainland. I learned how to organize meetings, deliver training, and make presentations virtually, often across multiple time zones. So I know how to organize and run a successful Zoom meeting, which includes knowledge of the technology for sure, but also an understanding of how to deliver virtual content effectively. I've also learned what won't work well virtually. This spring, I helped my local quilt guild down a path towards a virtual year, kicking off with a very successful June meeting that featured Lisa Walton presenting to us all the way from Sydney, Australia. Since then, I've been called upon to help other guilds with their virtual transitions. I would love to present my virtual trunk show to your guild. I have my own Zoom Pro license to use for trunk shows or workshops, and I'm also happy to work with your guild system, however you'd like to set it up. My class on Raya Applique Animals features my fun and unique jigsaw puzzle method, which lends itself very well to virtual learning. I run it from my studio where I have a 2-camera setup for demonstrations. My adjustable ceiling-mounted camera provides a great view of cutting or quilt assembly, and also shows a bird's eye view of quilting. Your members may also find it helpful to watch my YouTube videos on these quilts prior to the class, or as a refresher when finishing up the project. If you know my work, you'll know that I'm fond of penguins, as in these dye-painted quilts. I said earlier that I understand what isn't a good fit for virtual learning, and sadly, my dye painting class is one of these. In the meantime, I'm pleased to say that some of my penguins have found their way into the world of traditional pieced quilting through the Magdalena collection from Northcott Fabrics. In November, when the fabric becomes available in stores, I'll start teaching virtual classes on these quilts. Your members can purchase the fabric and patterns from your local quilt shop, or directly from me if your local quilt shop doesn't carry it. I would love to talk to you about presenting a virtual trunk show or workshop to your guild. Thanks so much for letting me have these 3 minutes of your time, and happy quilting.
Thank you, Sue. Next in the lineup is Tammy Silvers.
Hi, I'm Tammy Silvers of Tamarini's, and I am a fabric designer. I'm a pattern designer, but the thing I love most of all is teaching and lecturing about quilting. I'm going to be honest, it's my obsession. Now, I have 3 lectures to offer you. The first one is an oldie but a goodie, interrogating your quilt. And in this humor-filled lecture, full of practical examples and real quilts, I'm going to talk about making those selections to tell your quilt story. So you're going to come out of this lecture with lots of ideas on how to take an existing pattern and make it your own. Now, have you ever made a quilt more than once because you just absolutely loved it? Me too. So in seeing double, you're going to see the same quilt made multiple times, and we're going to talk about how making your fabric choices, color, value, scale are going to influence the whole atmosphere of the quilt. And you're going to walk away with some great ideas as to how to tackle your next quilt project. My third lecture is Orophilosophy. I am an Orophilosopher. So I'm able to offer you a fact-filled but lusciously eye-candy-laden lecture that talks about the history of Orophil and how to use all of those wonderful weights of Orophil thread that they offer. Now let's talk workshops, because that's where the rotary cutter hits the fabric. I have a lot of workshops to offer you on a variety of techniques. So you might want to do one of my guided improv workshops, and you can see that signature style right behind me. Or maybe you like paper piecing or want to tackle paper piecing, and I have a slew of paper piecing projects to offer you, from small to large, simple to intricate. Maybe you want to try your hand at some faux curved piecing. Sounds intriguing, right? Or a pre-cut friendly project, or even a hand-stitched sampler. Whatever it is you're looking for, I hope you'll check me out at www.tamarinis.com.
Thank you, Tammy. Next up is Brenda Gael Smith.
I'm Brenda Gael Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to the Serendipity studio at the other Copacabana, the one in Australia, about 100 kilometres north of Sydney. While travel is currently restricted, I'm really excited about how technology enables us to share our creative spaces and work together side by side, no matter where we live and what time zone we are in.
Thank you to Sue and Lyric for this opportunity to introduce myself. I am an international exhibiting artist, an exhibition administrator and independent curator, a quilt judge and judging educator, a writer, and a mentor. I bring this deep experience and insight into my lectures and workshops, which are set out on my website. I offer 6 Zoom-ready presentations. In Driven to Abstraction, I share the inspiration and process from my personal creative practice. Other presentations look at technology and creativity, quilts and composition, the design code of quilts, the art of curating, judging enduring art quilts with a focus on original design, and copyright from an Australian perspective. My teaching focus is on freeform piecing, effective design, and the use of colour to promote fun and to encourage creative momentum. As both a teacher and a student, I have observed how learning online takes a different kind of concentration and energy. So I've taken the opportunity to reconfigure some of my most popular classes so they are optimized for Zoom learning. Each 3-hour class focuses on a different freeform piecing technique, building skills for individual compositions. There's line dancing, fundamentally circles, hexagon shapes and cross motifs, strip ease, and the X Factor, fun projects for pre-cuts or scrap busting. These 3-hour classes are standalone, or you can pick and choose a series. I continue to offer longer format, in-depth workshops, both in person and virtually, and can tailor this for your group. My studio is set up with multiple cameras, so you can work with me side by side every step of the way at the cutting table, ironing board, design wall, and sewing machine.
Check out all the details on my website and contact me. Let's make it happen together.
Thank you, Brenda. Next, we will hear from Terri Sontra.
Hello, everybody. My name is Terri Sontra, and I'm the head moose at Purple Moose Designs. I wanted to share 3 different presentations that I can offer virtually to your group. The first one is called The History of the Sewing Machine, A Tale of Intrigue and Espionage. In this one, it starts out as a PowerPoint presentation, and we go over how our sewing machines came to be in our sewing rooms today. But not to worry, we don't cover any of the boring facts, just the salacious little tidbits, and there's some doozies. I'll follow that up with a little show and tell of some of the different items from my vintage sewing collection, and we have a little Q&A session at the end. The next one is called Needles 101. Whether it's hand needles or machine needles, we all use them. And I'm surprised at the number of people that don't really know that much about the needles. So in this presentation, I'll share with you how needles are made, what the different kinds are, when they should be used, when they shouldn't be used, and we cover both hand and machine needles. Now I hear you. Needles. Boring. Not really. I consider my first priority to be to provide you with fun and entertainment. If you learn a little something along the way, all the better. And the last one is called Every Quilt Tells a Story. This is more of a traditional trunk show. And now I've been in the business for over 20 years and I've been quilting for longer than that. So I'll share some of my quilts and I'll tell you about the design choices that I made and why. The fabric choices I've made and why. I'll share with you the mistakes I've made. Probably can't tell you why. And you're welcome to learn from my mistakes or laugh at them or even both. And in this presentation, I actually share my very first quilt. And even though it was started over 2 decades ago, it's still not done. And the reason it's not done is, well, you'll just have to book the presentation and find out why. Now I'm very well versed in Zoom and I will offer your group a chance a day or two before your presentation for any of your newbies to come in, check out Zoom, see how it works, so when your presentation rolls around, they're able to jump in with both feet and have a great time. Again, my name is Terri Sontra. I'm the head moose at Purple Moose Designs and I look forward to hearing from you. But I look forward even more to meeting you and your guild virtually.
Thank you, Terri. Margaret Willingham is next.
Hello, my name is Margaret Willingham. I run Eye the Beholder Quilt Design, where I design stunning reverse applique quilts. Our distinctive patterns, ranging from elegant to whimsical, make a dramatic wow statement. They provide the inspiration for all of our workshops and are the focus of our trunk shows. We open up the creative possibilities as we demystify with technique. In my classes, I teach our simple, non-traditional method for hand and machine reverse applique that makes it easy and fun. My method is called Trace, Baste, Snip, and Stitch. Reverse applique is a creative world full of depth and dimension that plays with positive and negative space, color, and design. It's called reverse applique because you cut away the top fabric to reveal the beauty of the design in the background fabric. I offer a variety of technique-based and project-based workshops, all of which will be tailor-made for your guild. Working together, you choose the technique you want to learn, hand or machine, the ability level, length of workshop, and the pattern you want to make. Hand workshops invite you into the rest and pleasures of the now moment with the added benefit of portability. Machine workshops bring reverse applique beauty to your life with speed and employ our AppliQuilt method. In my workshops, I love helping fellow quilters explore new techniques in a supportive environment. I combine clear explanations with step-by-step demos, plenty of time to practice your stitching and ask questions. Each student has a front row seat with our multiple cameras set up. You'll learn our methods plus tips and tricks to help you stitch like a pro. I'll also give advice on use of fabric and texture to give that wow effect to your pieces. Other fun workshops I teach are paper piecing, quilt as you go, a gridded system for making half-square triangles, and making a mola. You're sure to be inspired and empowered with your creative juices flowing. I also offer 4 trunk show lectures which are designed to renew you and spark your creative journey. I share my love affair with reverse applique and its history, the interplay of creativity and hope, and the stories behind the quilts. I look forward to teaching a workshop and sharing a trunk show with your guild soon. Contact me, Margaret Willingham, at eyethebeholderquiltdesign.com.
Thank you, Margaret. Laura Winckel is next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Winckel with Quality Quilts by Laura. I'm so happy to be here today to let you know the lectures and workshops that I offer to guilds and other organizations. First one I'd like to talk about is the crooked nickel. The crooked nickel involves an on-point grid. I do have permission from the original artist that developed this, and I sell her books and patterns with her permission. I get them from her. I want everybody to be clear about that. So in my trunk show, I show you an absolute huge amount of quilts that are made all with this on-point grid, various sizes, very, very easy and simple. For the workshop, I offer these table runners. You can make them as long or as short as you want. If you only make one, it's a nice placemat, or you can make this hexagon table topper. And that's all in half a day. No problem, without the quilting, of course. So that's one of them that I offer. The other one that I offer that is very, very popular right now is my quilting leather. On my trunk show, the pieces that I have, I show you what I've done with quilting leather and all the stories behind that. Also, the workshop for leather is about making journal covers, leather book covers. If you send me, the size of the book, but I do it with composition books, and everybody gets the chance to make their own leather cover and see if they like working with leather. I will be offering some more workshops with leather, with tabletops and things of that nature. So you just need to stay in touch with me and check out my website on a regular basis or sign up for my newsletter. I offer other lectures in t-shirt memory quilts. Got some nice different ways of putting those together, easy tips and tricks. And I also have one Trash to Treasure, where I take discarded tops and quilts and bring them back to life and quilt them. And we have a beautiful trunk show of both quilts and linens. And I also do one that's behind the seams with Laura that tells you a little bit about how I went from taking a 30-year hobby into very lucrative quilting business in just 9 short years. I thank you so much for your time today, and I hope I hear from you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Now we have time for Q&A about how Zoom teaching works from our panel of teachers.
One of the first questions we have is, how do you deal with time zone differences, especially across the world? If any of you teachers have experience with that, let me know, and you can answer that question. Brenda.
As a New Zealander living in Australia, married to an American, I'm all across time zones. It's not a problem. We can work it out.
All right. Do you just get up really early or stay up really late?
You can usually find the sweet spot. And yes, sometimes it involves getting up in the middle of the night, but that's okay.
All right. Good to know. Any other international teachers? RaNae?
I just wanted to say that in all of the communications that we do with all of our guilds, we always include the time, and we in Easter time, but we always put a link to a time zone converter right next to that. So we make it really easy for anyone that's, checking out a class to be able to very easily find out what time that time zone will be for them.
That's a really, really good idea. One thing that I have found that also works really well in teaching is that when you have a long class, if you're on like East-West Coast time or Europe and other times, instead of doing 6 hours in one day, a lot of the teachers, myself included, are breaking a 6-hour class into 2 sections of 3 hours on different days. And that way you get a good start, a good introduction, and then you have time to work on the project. And then you come back together at a reasonable hour to work again. I see a question that says, please put prices on your websites. We've encouraged all of our teachers to do so. If you don't find them, just send them an email. They're perfectly happy to answer your emails. All right, the next question that I see, do any of you do kit classes? How do you handle classes where some of the supplies might not already be in your studio? Sue Sherman.
Sometimes, well, with my kits, they're all, my kits are all available at either particular shops. I have one shop in the US and 3 shops in Canada that sell my kits. Failing that, people can buy them on the Etsy shop. And if I was doing it at a workshop with a guild, I would provide them with a discount on my Etsy shop.
Great, thanks, Sue. Cindy, and
yeah,
then Laura.
Most of my fabric dyeing classes, people are trying it out. They may or may not have dyed fabric before, and I put 99% of everything you need in a kit. They're mailed out a good 2 weeks in advance so that you have a majority of the supplies that I use for if I were teaching you in person. I also have a way you can provide your own supplies, and I tell you specifically what I'm using, so we can cover you from both directions.
Good. I know your classes have some really specific dye supplies, and they're fantastic. If you all haven't seen her dip dye class, it's amazing. Laura Winckel.
Yes. With my leather class, I'm getting ready to do my first workshop with that in November. I'm very lucky that a local group, Quilt Guild, wants to do the workshop. So they're going to come to my home and they're going to pick up the kits. It's very important with the leather that I supply what's needed. I supply the leather so they have the correct weight, and I supply a leather needle, whether it be for a domestic machine or long arm or whatever the case may be. But I'm just going to add the cost of shipping into those workshops, because those are just not products that people can readily go out. I've been in touch with Tandy Leather and another leather company and other leather, and leather is just like fabric and thread right now. It's can be difficult to come by the correct weight and what you want. So I do supply that.
Okay, good. So most teachers that have really specific supplies are more than happy to mail you kits. Betsy, I saw your hand raised.
I was just going to say the same thing that others do. It's I send kits out in advance. So I was just going to say the same thing a lot of other teachers have said, is that I get a list of participants from the guild representative, and then set a deadline for registering, and then send kits out ahead of time. And that works pretty well.
Very good. All right, we have a general question for all panelists. Are any of the teachers using their own moderators, or are they working with the volunteer moderators provided by the guilds? If they have hired their own moderator, how has that changed their overhead and pricing structure? I want to say one thing really quickly to the guilds. I want to make sure that you realize that teaching on Zoom is something that we've all had to really up our game to work with. Many of us have bought a lot of lighting equipment and filming equipment and figuring out which thing will hold our camera and all the things that go along with that. So realize that we've worked really, really hard and have invested often quite an amount of money into making our Zoom classes look really good for you. All right, back to the original question about monitors. Do any of you want to answer that? Sarah Bond, then Jenny Haynes.
Hi, everybody. I have generally hired a moderator, especially if I have a large class. And I think some of that has to do with knowing your own strengths and weaknesses. And for me, There's a lot of things that I can do well, but I have a hard time watching everybody and keeping track of what I'm doing and that sort of thing. So when this whole thing started and I got some jobs for festivals, I hired my own moderator and I paid her, and that's fine with me. When I work for a guild, generally the guild is happy to provide someone, and because there's usually someone who is familiar with Zoom, and it just means moderating questions a little bit during the instruction time, and maybe muting people from time to time if somebody's dog is barking, that sort of thing. It usually works out pretty well.
It does. Jenny Hayes, I saw that you had a comment. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, so the same as Sarah, I find it really hard to concentrate on the chat as well as my teaching. So I just find it really useful. And they can also take out the questions that might not relate to what I'm teaching at the moment and save it for the chat. So I do a chat and kind of sew together after the demo, and we can then cover the questions that might not fit the teaching later on.
Right, sounds good. RaNae has written that she provides her own moderator on all of her classes, and also provides a Zoom training for guild members a couple of days before to help all the members get comfortable. Tammy Silvers says, to keep costs down, I do request a moderator from the guild, and so far it's worked without issue. Okay, another question. Sorry, this is where I should have a moderator, right? Some of the guilds are having a really easy time getting guild members to come to the meetings, but it's a harder sell to get them to connect for signing up for workshops. How would you as teachers help encourage the guilds and the guild members to book workshops with you? How do you ease their concerns and get people who might not be used to Zoom to sign up for a workshop? Sarah Goer and then Eleanor Levie.
Yes, I think there's a lot of benefits to the online workshops for people that can work within their home, and to talk to guild members about those benefits. You're home with all your tools, you're home with all your fabric, you don't need to pack to travel. At my last workshop, I had a guild member who was just so excited because this was the first workshop she was ever able to take, because she is unable to carry her machine to travel to a workshop that a guild holds in person. So I think we can reach out to guild members who maybe aren't the traditional members that join classes, and then just talk about all the benefits of the flexibility, and there's still social time worked in there. Some people go to a workshop so that they can socialize, and they're worried that online workshops aren't going to have that component, but we're doing that. We're socializing, we're having fun while we're teaching.
Very good. Eleanor.
So in the past, you'd go visit a guild, and previously you would have sent your samples ahead, and the past 2 or 3 months at least, they would have been showing those samples and getting their members excited about signing up for a workshop, right? So we have a harder task, and I have found a lot of guilds book the presentation, the program, the lecture, and then I give a little song and dance about the workshop and let them have a preview of what they can expect so they feel more comfortable about signing up.
Very good. I know that somebody suggested somewhere just recently, if your guild does sew-alongs, just open a random Zoom meeting, invite anybody that wants to come for an hour or two, and just sew along and chat. Just casual, nothing really organized. But one of the teachers suggested, and I love the idea, that you invite an upcoming teacher to just pop in and say hello and show them a little bit about what's going on. And that could be a really easy thing to do at one of your lectures as well. Another thing to really help the teachers and help the guilds, please fill your classes, is just continually sending out the advertising material that your teachers will send you. Send them out to your Facebook group, send them out via your email newsletter, do whatever you can to help your guild and your teacher to advertise that class, really get the word out. Okay, this was touched on a little bit. It's one of the advantages of Zoom classes is access for students who might not have had access to live classes before. Do any of you teachers want to talk about your experiences that you've had so far with teaching via Zoom and opening that up to students who wouldn't be able to travel to live classes? Sarah Bond?
I would just say that I've taught for a few, festivals online, and that I've had a lot of people say that they've been really excited because this was an opportunity that they would not otherwise have had because they don't have the resources or the time or whatever it is to travel across the country or travel to where this teacher is. And often, a guild, maybe they can afford a teacher's fee, but they can't afford that in combination with the travel and lodging as well. And I just wanted to say another thing. One of the things that we did in our guild, although our guild is extremely social and we were all, feeling sort of strung out. So we were meeting every week for a while. But one of the things that we did in the guild was we taught each other a little bit. And so if you have a guild and people are feeling, icky about Zoom or they're not sure about it, get some of the other folks in your guild. Everybody in the guild knows something that they can teach, and teach a little half an hour or a little 45 minutes and get people used to the concept and used to getting the materials out when they're in front of the computer. And it really does warm people up, and they sort of get in the groove.
Thanks. RaNae.
I just want to, I've had a lot of conversations with guild boards over the last few months about getting their guilds to adapt to Zoom. And I just want to mention a couple of things that have really come out from those conversations. The first one is, I really recommend not polling your guild membership about whether or not you should do this. Because people are, if they're not comfortable with it, they're not going to say, yes, I'd love to do it if they're not comfortable already. Kind of treat it like vegetables. Kids, tell them they have to take one bite. Tell them you're going to meet via Zoom. It's the only option they have right now, and they'll either join or they won't. But don't give them the opportunity to say no. There was something else I was going to say now, and I'm sorry. It just, menopause brain, it evaporated. But that was the main thing. Just don't give your guild members an opportunity to say no. Polls really are not going to get you the buy-in that you want. It's better to just say, hey, we're doing this, and make it fun and exciting for them. Oh, and I remember the other thing was, when you do the small guild trainings, or you have the individuals in your guild that are already comfortable with this, really express to them that they are the seeds that are going to help propagate Zoom through the guild, and that they can really reach out to their friends, 2 or 3 at a time, 1 at a time, and help those people get comfortable when they're not in front of the whole guild. And the one other thing that I think is just so important to realize about this is that we're not just teaching guilds how to use Zoom to stay connected to the guild. This is an important life skill that a lot of these ladies need, especially elderly people, to be able to reach out to their friends, to their family. This is the way healthcare professionals are now holding appointments with them. This is a really important skill that is going to be incredibly important for the physical and emotional well-being of our guild members on many, many levels. And so we are really doing them a service that goes beyond staying connected to the guild by teaching them how to use Zoom.
Thank you, RaNae. One, backing up a little bit for a couple of side answers to questions. Some people would not charge for a pop-in and say hello. A suggestion from the viewers to the teachers is make a video intro for your class and send it to the guilds. That sounds like a really good idea. I should probably do that. And one other thing that people are saying that's really wonderful for Zooming is that it really does open up a lot of advantages to people who have not been able to go to guild meetings. They can have earbuds in. So if they have hearing problems, they can hear the speaker. There's no background noise if they plug into their ears. There's people who can't drive at night if you have a night meeting guild. There are people who can't carry their things around. I've had people who are extreme introverts in my classes. You don't have to turn on your video. You can hide and just work along quietly and at your own comfort, at your own space, and still get as much out of the class. Tammy, unmute.
Got it. I was going to say, I just did a lecture and workshop yesterday via Zoom, and the members came on early, and I came on early. And one thing that happened is they're helping each other out. What device are you on? Why can't you see the chat? And everybody has a much more open mind. So I think they're really appreciating that. With the offering the workshops and them being in their own environment, one, they're much more comfortable. A lot of people are much more comfortable sewing in their own sewing space instead of at a table that's not the right height, or maybe their travel machine is not, as well equipped as their home machine. But the other thing to keep in mind on a Zoom lecture, and see, I don't sound like a chipmunk, do I? The other thing about a Zoom workshop and even a lecture is everybody has that front row seat, right? You're right there. You can see it. Nobody is obstructing your view. And that makes sure everybody is seeing the same thing. And I think that's a very powerful aspect of it.
I agree. I completely agree. Let me remind the viewers that if you have a question, you need to type it into the chat so that we can see it. How do you deal with varying internet connectivity capabilities? Any of the teachers want to answer that? Let's look. RaNae. Quickly.
We record I record all of my events and make them available in a private Facebook group for that class for about 60 days after the event. So if they couldn't watch it online, live, they can go back and see a recording.
Right. And I know a lot of teachers, myself included, film a lot of our demos. And that's not it's not a disadvantage for live teaching. That's actually a really good thing because you can get your camera right up close with great lighting and you don't have to worry about any glitches happening, because all of us who have taught, glitches happen, right? They happen all the time. And we have backups, and we have backups for our backups, right? We have it. We're patient with each other and we figure out how to get this. One of the things that I do with my classes is I have everything pre-recorded and upload to an online class that my live students get access to for a certain amount of time. So if my internet goes out or their internet goes out, they still have access to all the classwork. All the videos, all the recorded videos. And I know many of the teachers are doing the same thing. One of the other advantages is that you can have an international teacher, or I know I have had a class with students from the West Coast to the East Coast and England all at the same time. And it was amazing to have people get to know each other. All right. I don't see any things. Okay. Let's have some short closing comments from Laura, then Cindy.
One of the things that I wanted to say was I was going to take a class from a famous quilter. It didn't work. She doesn't know why. There was nothing any of us could do. And you know what? Everybody was okay. Everybody was okay with it. Everybody understood. The next day she came on. We're just, a day late, and we had it for another day, So I was very impressed with all the fellow quilters and, just people wanting to learn and how understanding they were. People will understand. If you have a glitch, they're in the same boat you are. Sometimes our internets just don't work, or we have a storm or whatever, and you know what? The biggest thing that I've tried, even before this pandemic, was to help people understand, and our guild now understands, that this is awesome. You can have somebody from Australia. You can have some really famous people that we couldn't afford. We can afford now. We're not paying all those expenses. Right. This is an awesome opportunity, not just as instructors and teachers and educators, but as just guild members, to be able to get that education and that experience from so many people all across the globe. And I have to thank you and all the people involved in this. This is just an amazing thing to be part of this global connection. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, because I got to tell you, the cancellations are still coming in.
Yeah.
Even for 2021.
But then the bookings are coming right after that.
They're starting to pick up. Thank you so much for all your work.
Cindy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that while I miss you all in person, the opportunity to teach on Zoom has, like Lyric said, I have had to up my game, and providing Facebook support in a private Facebook page allows me to be a better teacher. I can help you set up. Afterwards, we have lots of connection and show and tell and gentle critiquing and growing together. And it's a great way to stay connected. So until we can do this together in person, you should jump online with some teacher somewhere. It's a great, great thing.
Thank you so much, Cindy. So to wrap us up, our time is up. We thank you so much, all of our viewers, for joining us. Thank you for sticking around and watching all the teachers. Make sure to contact them quickly. After each one of these webinars, teachers get a lot of contacts and their schedules fill up quickly. So please do contact them. Please do go to their websites to find out more information. All of these teachers are just waiting and ready to come play with your quilters. We love playing with the quilters. That's what gives us joy. That's why we're here.
Thank you for joining us. Our teachers are waiting to hear from you. We hope you found somebody your guild would love to hire. You can find recordings of previous Meet the Teacher webinars on this YouTube channel, as well as at globalquiltconnection.com. There you can also download information for all of the teachers with their email and website links. Thank you for watching. Sue Bleiweiss is the mastermind behind this webinar, and my name is Lyric Montgomery Kennard. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and you can see upcoming webinars as well. Thanks. Stay safe, be well, and keep quilting.